Hi everybody, this is Cheryl Richardson, and I'm here for our weekly Facebook Live, and it's a gorgeous day here today. It feels like summer as we're heading into fall, although it still is summer, which is great. I love it. And I'm wearing Love today, in case you can see this. I actually just came in from the gym, and every now and then I'll wear like a t-shirt that says something unusual on it. So I like to bring a little love to the gym, hoping that it will fuel me as I get my butt kicked from my workout. And it does. Anyway, I'm looking forward to talking with you today, and I wanted to start this Facebook Live by talking a little bit about what happens at the weekend retreats that at the retreats, I should say, that I've hosted for nearly 18 years now. We get lots of emails and questions from people wondering about the retreats that we do, and I just thought it would be kind of fun to talk a little bit about what happens, just for a few minutes, and then I'll go ahead and start taking your questions. I was supposed to today be, because I know I mentioned it to all of you, I was supposed to be reading from my next book, Waking Up in Winter. I had this whole excerpt planned for the newsletter, and my publisher, Harper One, was going to be doing a flash ebook sale, and we had a bit of a technical glitch, so that's going to happen next week. So I'm going to wait before I read anything from the book until next week. But it's coming. And Anne-Marie, hi, Anne-Marie says, I'm excited, I'm registered for the retreat. I'm so glad you're going to be there. That's great. So I started leading retreats, back, in the early 2000s. It was right around the time that I was doing the Lifestyle Makeover series for the Oprah Winfrey Show. And I chose a place in Tucson, Arizona called Miraval. Many of you have probably heard about it if you've been following me for a while. It's a gorgeous resort, and in the middle of the desert, which I was never quite sure whether or not I'd like the desert, but boy, I really, really loved Miraval and have led retreats there for years. Led a few retreats there also with Louise Hay. Louise and I led, I think, 3 or 4 retreats there that were just magical. I'm so grateful for those memories and those experiences. And really what I wanted to do was create a place where people, some retreats have been for men and women, a lot of them have been just for women. I always feel bad because there's always a few men who will write to me and say, hey, when are you going to include men in your retreats? And the problem is, when I open it up to men, usually just 1 or 2 men come, and we get lots of women's issues that come up. And so then it feels like there's this conflict, but I keep saying I am gonna, my husband Michael and I are talking about doing a retreat together that would be for men and women around communication and relationship building, all kinds of relationships. So, but anyway, I designed the retreats because I designed the retreats with a few things in mind. Extreme self-care, because I said if I was going to be traveling and teaching and taking up a weekend or a week, then I wanted to really make sure that I could honor my self-care while I was teaching, because I like to walk my talk. And so I chose Miraval because it was a beautiful place. There were spa services. The food was excellent. It was just filled with the most unbelievable, soul-nurturing natural beauty. And then last year, the beginning of last year, I switched from Miraval to the East Coast, so I would actually be able to get in the car and drive there rather than have to pack a bag and get in an airplane. And this time I chose a place by the sea, which, I love the ocean. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And so I chose the Stage Neck Inn in York, Maine, specifically because I understand the healing power of beauty for men and women, being in nature, having sights that, having windows that you can look out of and just be awestruck by the beauty that you see, being able to go out and walk along the beach, to watch the waves crash against the rocks, like all of those elements were really important to me. I knew that they were going to contribute to the weekend. And so I've known for a long time how important it is for us to be able to step away from our busy lives, to step away from the habituated environments that we live in, right? The houses, the places where we work, where we tend to run the same neural programming over and over and over again. You think the same thoughts, you live your life the same way, you get up, you shower, you drive to work, you're just always doing the same thing. And it's easy to get lulled into a kind of, I don't know what I would call it, but it's easy to get stuck, or to just go about kind of, roll into a comfortably numb place and just go through the motions of life. So I wanted to remove people from those kinds of environments, which is exactly why I chose a place where you could go and stay overnight. And over the last 17, 18 years or so, people have consistently told me that when they come back from the retreat, they're not the same people, and their lives change, and they live differently. They do things differently, slowly, but they make changes. And I know it's because they're removed from their environment, the environment where they're so used to doing the same things over and over again. And this particular retreat, called Healthcare by the Sea, that's happening at the end of October, was really inspired by my dad, who passed away last November. Really gave me a front row seat perspective of what happens when we come to the end of our lives, or come to the later stages of our lives, and we're not in good health. What happens when we can't move consistently, or we're carrying a lot of weight, where our habituated patterns now have landed in the body, and we've got chronic illness. And also what happens, I guess I would say most of all for me, what happens when you get stuck in a medical system that isn't designed to treat the whole person, but instead to kind of pick you apart and treat the problems that are going on in each individual part of your body, which, on one hand, I want to say my father lived a lot longer than I think we ever expected him to, because this medical system really kept him alive, did a fantastic job of keeping him alive. And at the same time, we've got to treat the whole person. And the body is the last place for stress to show up. So if you're dealing with chronic illness or chronic pain or extra weight that you can't get rid of, it's usually because there's other stuff that's been going on for quite some time that hasn't been dealt with, or that's only being dealt with in a minimal way. And so watching my dad go through his healing process and then eventually his dying process really made me realize, I'm in my late 50s, and I want to live a long, healthy, vibrant, in motion, strong life. I want to be able to do a lot with my life, and I'd like to live as long as I can. I'm not that afraid of dying. When it's my time, it's my time. But I'd like to really give myself a fighting chance to experience this beautiful earth that we live in, even though it can feel quite challenging at times. So I wanted to focus this retreat on health, and I wanted to do it in a different way. I invited Susan Dowdy, who is a women's health nurse practitioner, who was my own personal doctor for a number of years, somebody that I just love and respect and felt like I was in partnership with. And this is a woman who not only understands and treats the whole physical body, but she understands the emotional and energetic impact on the body as well. How to treat our emotional lives and our energy, our energetic body, and the importance of our emotional, spiritual, and energetic health in addition to physical health. And so I invited Susan to join us, and especially because she was at the last retreat, and I invited her to contribute a couple of things during the retreat, and people fell in love with her. She's a really special woman, incredibly smart, very warm and personable. She's got high emotional intelligence. She's been dealing with women's health issues for 30 years. And she also is a follower of Abraham, and really understands the power of intention and how our intention and our visioning impacts our health as well. And so we wanted to create a special weekend to help women fall in love with their bodies and find a way to eat in a more soul-loving, nutritious way, and to find ways of moving the body that feel more aligned with your soul than somebody else's program. And we wanted to have conversations about how the brain impacts our physical, emotional, and spiritual health, and how you can begin to think differently on a consistent basis. As a matter of fact, I want to weave in a lot of Joe Dispenza's work, who I love. I love Joe. I love his work. I think he's an excellent teacher. His book, You Are the Placebo, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and his new book that's coming out called Being Supernatural, which is an awesome book. It'll be out in November, and I'll tell you about it when it comes out. I wanted to incorporate a lot of his work into the retreat as well. His great work on the brain and the nervous system, and the ways in which we get sort of habituated to our environments and our schedules and our lives, and how we need to step out of that in order to create and heal, how to create better health, but also heal. And I wanted to talk about a women's journey through perimenopause and menopause, so it's for women of all ages, and how to be an empowered patient. You know, the thing I was mentioning earlier when my dad was sick, the thing I realized most of all, I don't know how all you feel about this, but the last thing, what I'm more afraid of is getting thrown into a medical system that that just doesn't feel very loving and supportive and comforting to human beings, let alone sensitive human beings like myself. And so one of my main reasons for wanting to stay healthy and strong and fit is so that I can stay out of the medical system. Honestly, that's what it is. And yeah, so we want to talk during the retreat also about what does it mean to be an empowered patient, and how do you find healthcare providers that are really aligned with your own nature and who treat you like an adult, not a child, and who really partner with you to improve your health. And, you know, for example, the doctors that I see know that I take responsibility for my health. You're there to provide the expertise that I need. I'm a well-educated patient. I only work with healthcare professionals who are sensitive and loving and kind and respectful. I don't want to go to places where I'm treated like a number, or where people are, you know, burnt out and making me wait forever without ever communicating with me, or not respectful of my body and my privacy. I mean, there are places where you can, that you can find that will treat you in the way that you deserve to be treated, with extreme self-care. And you need to take responsibility first for your own health. And that's part of what we want to talk about. What does it mean to be healthy? And what does it mean to be emotionally, physically, and spiritually healthy? And what kind of healthcare providers do you need? And what kinds of alternative methods of healing can help you either treat current illness or prevent illness? And how do you learn to tune into your own inner wisdom? As Kris Northrup has spoken about forever. I mean, she's been a huge influence on my life. Kris's work. You know, back when I had a coaching practice, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, and the Wisdom of Menopause. I'm going to write these down so I can remember to include them in the resources once I post this. Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, and the Wisdom of Menopause were must-read books for all of my female clients, because Kris Northrup really gets what it means to treat the whole person, not just a body part. So, and during the retreat, a lot of times we'll get women who consider themselves a bit introverted or shy, and we make a point of really creating a safe environment where everybody feels welcomed, where everybody's invited to make new friends, and we set it up so that you can do that. But we also set it up so that if you're there and you really want more quiet, private time, you can have that as well. You don't have to interact with people if you don't want to. We do great exercises that are both hilariously funny and deeply moving, all of which are designed to be introspective, to provide you with the wisdom and the insight you need to gain better access to what's important to you at this time in your life. And we learn a lot from each other, a lot about how each one of us has learned to do things like get to a body weight that feels good, move our bodies consistently in a way that feels good without fighting against ourselves, making peace with the inner critical voices that are always beating ourselves up for how we look or how we feel or what we have or haven't done. All of that stuff is going to be addressed. So the retreat's on Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It's an informal setting. I do a lot of coaching back and forth with people. There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions related to your health of both myself and Susan. She's seen it all, literally have seen it all. And on Saturday night, my husband, Michael, who's just an incredibly gifted intuitive, some of you know that, you've seen him, comes in and does an hour and a half group reading. He just chooses people randomly out of the audience and provides them with really remarkably accurate and insightful information that's really helpful as far as this journey goes. Unless, of course, he would say, unless, of course, it stops working that night, which he says all the time, like, tonight it might stop working, but it hasn't for the last several years. So I'm counting on it probably working, and it's a really interesting evening. So the retreat is the weekend of October, I think it's 20, 21st, 22nd. I should have those dates right here in front of me, and I don't. But it's that weekend. I know it's the weekend around the 21st, and it's here in beautiful New England. I'm hoping the fall colors stick around, and it's at the Stage Neck Inn, as I mentioned. I'll put a link to the retreat in this post when I'm done, along with the other resources. There are some spots left, not a lot of spots left, so it's more than half sold out at this point. They usually sell out. And if you're interested in becoming strong inside and out and developing a deeper, more loving relationship with yourself and your body, and interested in making some really wonderful new friends who will be there for you in thick or thin, and so many. I mean, we actually have Facebook pages that get started after the retreats and people continue to communicate. The last Facebook page is called Soul Sisters by the Sea. And a lot of the women who were there continue to communicate and support each other as time goes on. So if you're interested, you'll be able to see the link and you can read all about it. Thank you, Robin. So Robin is here. Thank you, Robin. October 20th through the 21st. Robin is really, she's this incredible retreat manager. She attends, she participates with me, and she does a great job of just taking care of everybody, from setting up the place and putting all these really gorgeous gift bags together to being right there, hugging and supporting women throughout the weekend, and then being with me at the end, debriefing and talking about how we can make the next one even better. So thank you, Robin, for giving me those dates. I appreciate it. And I'll put a link in the description, okay? All right. And if you have any questions, you can always email Nicole at CherylRichardson.com. Nicole handles the email portion of our retreats. So Nicole at CherylRichardson.com with any questions. And I will also put her email address in the resource post as well. Okay? All right, let's take some time to answer some of your questions, shall we? And let me take a sip of water. Say hello to Mr. Poupon, who's here. Hi, Poopy. Hi, Poopy. Oh, he's going to plop down and sleep. So let me put on my glasses, and I'm going to go back just a little bit and see if you could put a Q in front of your question. That would be great. If you haven't done it already, don't worry about it. I'll look and see. Hi, Teresa and Kristen and Georgina and Angela, Mary and Lucy and Donald. Hi, welcome. It's always wonderful to see men here. Jackie and Elaine from Thunder Bay. Hi, John. Melanie and Geet from Denmark. Welcome. Sue from Melbourne, Australia. Love Melbourne. Sarah says, hi, Cheryl. Can you please talk about how to get more peace of mind from being a wife, a mom, and the stress that comes with it? How do I tell my partner I need more time for myself? Good question. So first of all, Sarah, I want to say something I say all the time, which is 10 minutes a day of silence with an alarm set on your phone will do wonders in teaching you how to pull your energy back into your body, how to slow your brain waves down, and become more present so that both hemispheres of the brain can also begin to synchronize, to come into balance. When you do that, you wind up really creating peace. I mean, that's what it does. In the beginning, for the first week, 2 weeks, it can be uncomfortable. We're not used to being quiet. We're not used to being present with the busy mind that starts talking to us when we get quiet. But we must get comfortable with that in order to take charge of this thing in here called your brain, which is running the show. So 10 minutes a day. It's also, I think, a beautiful practice to model for children as they get older. You can even invite them to do it with you, is important. I think one of the things that I've done in my own marriage, I don't have children, but I have a very busy life, one of the things I've done in order to get the support I need from my husband, Michael, is to really remind him that I'm much easier to live with when I feel balanced and sane. And he knows that. I've become aware of the warning signals that occur, and this is true for a lot of people, especially women. I've become aware of the warning signals that start to occur when I'm getting too stressed out. I get bitchy and irritable, short-tempered. I snap. I just get snappy in my communication. I start, Michael used to call me, I don't do this as much anymore, but he used to call me something like Tasmanian devil, or there was some other, he would call it whirligigging. He'd say to me, Cheryl, you're whirligigging. Stop. And I began to be really aware of what are the warning signs that let me know, actually, those signals are that I've gone too far with being overwhelmed. It's interesting for all of you to think about what starts to happen. You can't sleep at night. You wake up and you've got thoughts racing through your head. It's probably just a reflection that there's too much going on in your life. Or you start catching yourself eating and you don't even know. You just ate something. You have no idea what you just ate. Or you eat a meal and you think, my God, where did it go? I ate it in 5 minutes. So you're eating really fast. Or you're reaching for sugar, carbs, something to try and give you that short-term calming feeling before it then, sends your blood sugar into crazy world. So what are some of the other signals that let you know? You want to think about that for yourself. Negative conversations in the head. When you start arguing with people in your head, they're not even in your life, but you're arguing with them in your head because you're pissed off and resentful and frustrated. These are all of the things that you want to look for. When that starts to happen, there's signals that you're headed for trouble. You're headed for overwhelm. And I think if you went to your partner, Sarah, and you said to him or her, look, I'm realizing that I'm stuck in this pattern of being overwhelmed and stressing myself out and doing too much, and I need to stop. And I need some time for myself. And I'd like to sit down and arrange some kind of a schedule, some kind of a way for me to be, I think for a lot of women especially, at home alone without anybody's energy there, so that you're not like on guard, on call, but you're able to just relax. Working out that kind of time frame with the partner and reminding the partner that, you know what, I'm going to be a lot better to be around if you work with me to give me this time. And they'll know it. And then, it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. Got to say that word. I don't like that word. It's your responsibility to be mindful of your own peace first. Nobody can steal your peace of mind without you giving them permission. So cultivating a practice of peace is really important. Taking time. Here's something important I want you all to know. When we get overwhelmed, we start to tell ourselves lies like, I can't do this. Well, she can do it because she doesn't have children, but I can't, I have children. Or my partner's never going to give me time to myself. Or I've got too much to do and there's nobody else to do it, so I'm stuck. Those are all the kinds of things we tell ourselves when we've gone too long without time for ourselves. So, and will you feel guilty about it? Probably in the beginning, and you better get really comfortable. I always say, put your arm around guilt, welcome it in, say to it, hey, thank you for being here. It's a good indication that you're doing something right. I don't have a lot of narcissists and murderers in my audience. So usually when people feel guilty, the question to ask yourself is, have I done anything wrong? And if the answer is no, then you need to see guilt as a sign that you're finally doing something good for yourself. And in the end, everybody's going to win because of it, I promise you. All right, Sarah, good luck with that. Let's see. Bonnie, hi, I'm glad you're going to be at the retreat too. I look forward to seeing you. Elaine says, I should do a retreat in Thunder Bay at the head of Lake Superior. I bet it's gorgeous there. I just don't want to get on a plane right now. I mean, if I get on a plane, I want to be going on a vacation as much as I can rather than for work. I just need a break. Ginny wants to know how to get back on track in your 50s and get healthy. Move your body is the first thing I would say without a doubt. Get outside and walk. I don't care if you do a quarter of a mile for a week and then increase it to a half a mile and then 3/4 of a mile. That's one of the first things you want to do. When we move our body, we get the blood flowing, we get the joints well lubricated, we get our mind, especially moving outside. I don't know about some of you. Some of you are great, I'm sure, on the treadmill or the Stairmaster or whatever, the elliptical. I used to be, 45 minutes on a treadmill. That would make me crazy at this point. It's part of the reason why I joined a CrossFit gym locally. It's a beautiful CrossFit gym that modifies exercises so that everybody of different body types and different ages can learn how to exercise in ways that, with community, in ways that are filled with variety. I actually really love that. But Ginny, one step, just get out and start moving your body. I promise you, it's how I began 5 years ago when I got back into it. My sister Carrie and I would go out and we would walk. And ultimately we worked up to a 4-mile loop that it took us just under an hour to do, just about an hour. And I would do that almost every day. And I just, sometimes I wrote in my head while I was walking. Sometimes I took photos of the beautiful things I found in nature. Sometimes I would listen to podcasts. It really became my time. Sarah, this is also a good suggestion for you too. Getting in a practice of being with oneself and being out in nature is really a powerful way of loving the earth and letting her love you back, and getting healthy at the same time, whatever age you are. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Yes, Gretchen says one can make an appointment for an informational interview prior to becoming a patient with care providers. Yes, you can. As long as you're willing to pay for it, you can. Let's see. So Nancy says, I'm 68 and sincerely agree that getting caught in the healthcare system is not a good thing. For those of us who cannot attend the retreat, would you talk about finding healthcare professionals who respect us? Yeah, Nancy, the first thing I would say, and this is really important, is as a patient or as a person, you want to take responsibility for your health. So that means getting educated about your body. That's why I recommend Kris's books. It's why I recommend Joe Dispenza's work. I'm trying to think of, my husband Michael wrote a book called The Mind Body Makeover Project. You might be able to get some of them online. And that book is all about what he calls UFOs, unidentified fitness obstacles. There's a test in there that will tell you the top 10 reasons why you can't get in shape and stay that way. It's a very holistic oriented book. I'll put a link, info about that book as well. Getting educated about your body is the first step, so that you're not going to a healthcare provider expecting them to heal you, save you, all of that sort of stuff. It's really, okay, how do I getting educated about nutrition? I don't believe at all that there's one food plan for everybody. I think that's foolish. It's like old-fashioned, outdated thinking. I think that you need to get educated about your own body, your own brain, and how they work together in terms of nutrition and learning about nutrition. So becoming a well-informed patient is the first step. And then I always recommend personally, this is my suggestion, I look for functional medicine doctors. That means doctors that look at the whole body and how the body functions as a whole. I love working with naturopaths. Really good experienced naturopaths are naturally treating the whole body. They're looking at how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, what the state of your sexual health is like, your sex life, how you think. They're looking at the energetic system of the body, how your emotions are impacting your body. So they're treating the whole person, body, mind, and spirit as well. So I would, so you're first respecting yourself by becoming an educated patient and really learning. And that, you know, I've been learning about my body and myself and nutrition and movement for years. I've gone to gyms. I've worked with trainers. I've been trained by my husband, who's been working out since he was 10 years old, and he's going to be 60 years old, and he has almost no gray hair and is incredibly fit, more fit than most 20-year-olds or 25 or 30-year-olds. And I've learned a lot from him about all of the stuff that I'm talking about. Learning about different ways to move your body, weight-bearing exercises. My mother, who is now 80 years old, taught me about the power of weight-bearing exercises, or just, I knew about it, but she validated it for me when in her mid-70s, she fell down a flight of stairs in the middle of the night and had like a tiny, tiny fracture in her foot, and that was it. And the doctors were blown away, and it's because she had been going to curves all the time with her girlfriends, doing weight-bearing exercise. So as you become educated and you respect your own body, then you're naturally going to start attracting respectful healthcare practitioners. So then I would go online, I would look for functional medicine, naturopathic, holistic doctors. These are some of the language that you can look for. And then I would schedule an interview. And I would let the doctor know, I've done this. I just want to get a sense of who you are, what your philosophy is, how you work with people, and I want you to know I take responsibility for my health. I'm a well-educated patient, and I'm looking for somebody to be a partner with me. I don't need a mother or a father or a God. I need a partner who's going to help me to make good choices as I go move forward in my life and move through the stages of life. So, and pay attention. I remember one time I had a woman that I was working with, and I think I wrote about this in Stand Up for Your Life. A woman who, I'll never forget this, who had gone to the doctors, and she was left in a waiting room for nearly an hour, in a Johnny, on a table for an hour. No one had communicated with her. And when the doctor came in to examine her, she came in with a colleague, a new colleague that she was training, and basically said to this patient, this woman that I was working with, this is so-and-so, and she's training with me, and she's going to be doing the exam with me. And this woman, patient, said that she was just angry and mortified, and she kept her mouth shut. Because we've come from a system that makes doctors and healthcare professionals gods, or moms or dads, the authority figures, let's call it that. She kept her mouth shut, and she left so humiliated and angry. And we had a long conversation about what she could have done differently and how she needed to communicate to that healthcare professional after the fact to let her know that it wasn't okay and that she was left feeling unsafe and disrespected and not taken care of. And I can assure you that will never happen again to her. So finding our voice and letting doctors know that you want to be an empowered patient and you want to work with somebody who actually cares about what you think and what your opinions are, so that if you go to a healthcare professional and you have an experience like that, you don't go back. You don't go back. And you say something. You speak up in a graceful and loving way. You let people know that, you could have done it a different way and it would have been better. So that's some of what I would recommend. And much like I talk about when it comes to working with a therapist, you have to interview people. And you've got to be willing to interview more than one person. Don't settle. And if you live in a small town where you don't have a lot of options, I have traveled an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes to see the right doctor for years, because once a year I'd have a physical, and I'm worth it. I respect myself that much, and I'm willing to take a longer drive in order to work with the kind of person I need to work with. It's also would be good to ask them, do you communicate via email or text, or can I call you for phone consultations? Lots of doctors are doing more of that now as well. Skype consultations, phone consultations. Of course, it depends on where you are and the legalities in your particular area. But find out how they're going to communicate with you, how available they are within reason. Because you know what? They're human beings too, and they need good boundaries and need to take care of their own self-care, which, by the way, is something I always want to talk to a healthcare professional about. Tell me, how do you take care of how do you practice self-care yourself? Because if I've got somebody who's just running through numbers, patients who are numbers, and they're burnt out, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And I have had meetings with doctors before and left and decided it's just not the right fit. No judgment, no rudeness, no defensiveness, gracious and loving. It's just not the right fit. That's all. So, Nancy, I hope that that's helpful for you. Yeah, so Anne Elizabeth says, this is such empowering information. I could weep that you're talking about it. I'm post-breast cancer surgery, about to make important decisions regarding treatment. I want to be my best advocate as I navigate through the healthcare system, making the best possible decisions. Yeah, Anne Elizabeth, so please make sure that you read Kris Carr's stuff if you haven't already. She certainly knows how to be an empowered patient. Her books are really important. Crazy Sexy Cancer. I love Kris. I love her work. I feel like I've said it before. I've talked about her programs here on Facebook Live. She's one of the front runners, playing an integral role in changing how our healthcare system works by teaching people that you're not a victim to cancer. It's just an imbalance in the body. Joe Dispenza's work as well, Anne Elizabeth. Joe has some incredible stories. Download a couple of his audio talks from iTunes if you have access to iTunes. The introduction to Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a great audio. I'm making a note of that. To Breaking would be a really good audio for you to listen to. And then, Kris Northrup's, go to Kris Northrup's site. I'll put her site on there as well. She's got lots of good information. One of the biggest things, I think, when it comes to cancer diagnoses, one of the biggest things that we want to keep in mind, and this information has come to me from some I'm thinking of one woman in particular who was a leading breast cancer researcher, who said, when you get a cancer diagnosis, we're usually really frightened and we feel like we need to do something right away. Get it out of me right away. But you have time to take a step back and breathe. This is true, by the way, for any kind of diagnosis where you feel frightened. Please don't act too quickly. Take a step back, take a deep breath, reach out to people, get more information, get second opinions. It's very, very rare that you have to treat something immediately. And too often, I have dealt with women who had their uterus removed or had a breast removed, or, they've made some kind of a decision. Men too had their prostate removed, made some kind of a decision out of fear and regretted it later on and discovered that they didn't have to make that decision. There were other avenues. So take a deep breath, do the research, ask for help, ask friends to help with research, and you'll be, and I would see this breast cancer and the surgery and all of that as a beautiful invitation to own your power, to take back your power, and to really take dominion, take agency over your own body and your own health. And if you do, you'll look back on this experience and see it as the greatest gift, one of the greatest gifts of your life. I promise you that. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Charlene wants to know, any tips for choosing a coach training program? It's good that you're going to the International Coach Federation. I always recommend coachfederation.org. There are a lot of programs out there, and I'll be honest with you, Charlene, I am not up to date on the number of programs and what they're doing. My training was through Coach U. That was many years ago. It was a 3-year training program. Coach training is very, very different now. It's nothing like it used to be. I love Gail Straub. I'm going to just make a note here. Just look up Gail Straub, S-T-R-A-U-B, the empowerment training. I'm going to see if I can find a link and I'll put it in the post. I do know her. I love her. I respect her coaching very much. And they had a great training program. I think it's still running, and that's something I could recommend. I know Pat Williams, who was a psychologist and has been training therapists and providing coach training, is also somebody I know personally, has been around a long time. I know Debbie Ford's school, does training. They have their programs that they train you in delivering. So the Debbie Ford coach training programs. You just are really going to need to do some research. Those are some names that I'd throw out to you, but I would recommend just take your time, be willing to check, use your intuition, tune in and ask yourself, where do I feel drawn to check out? Is there a free teleclass that I can listen to? What kind of resources do they have that I can get comfortable with? And I always recommend, if you're considering coach training, to make sure that you get coached first, that you spend at least 3 months working with an experienced coach, maybe somebody, a master certified coach or a professional coach through the ICF, someone who, I say that because I know they've got a lot of training under their belt, and work with them on preparing yourself for the training and for becoming a coach. And it's great to just have the experience of being coached. So, Dina says, advice, my mom has dementia. How can I be more patient? This is really a tough one, Dina, because if you've got someone with short-term memory loss or where you have to repeat yourself all the time, you are absolutely going to need to limit the time that you see her. You can't be with her all the time. No human being can handle repeating the same thing over and over and over again without getting incredibly irritable. I know that they exist, and they're few and far between, and I swear to God, they're angels on earth. So getting other support, depending on where you live. I learned from my dad. My dad didn't have dementia. He was sharp as a tack till the very end. But I did learn that there are state agencies. If you're in the United States, there are resources available in almost every state through Medicare, Medicaid. There are agencies available that can provide you with support, and a lot of times Medicare or Medicaid will pay for it. People who can do like laundry or errands or come and clean so that you can have a break also. You need breaks. That's my best piece of advice. Also, check out Lisa Gibbons has done a great job with caregiver, a caregiver website that I will put in the resource section. She has done a wonderful job of providing great support for caregivers of aging parents with Alzheimer's, dementia, and I just can't remember the name of her organization, but I'll look it up and I will put it. I'll put it in the resource section as well. And also, Dina, I am going to add you to my prayer book because you need prayers. And you and your mom are both going in the prayer book. There you have it. You're in there. All right. Let's see what else we have. We'll take a couple more. And Lynn says, positivity in interviews when grilling. So I'm going to assume that means, how do you stay positive when you're in a job interview and they're grilling you? I think so, Lynn. First of all, you want to be well educated about the company that you are interviewing with. You want to know about them. You want to do research online so that you show up. Let me see. Did you just post something here? Okay. So Lynn, you want to make sure you know about the company so that you've got an edge and you know what's going on. You want to sit on the edge of your seat, sit up on the edge of your seat, breathe. Believe it or not, that's one of the best pieces of advice I would give people who are interviewing. It's also advice they give to people like me when I'm doing television interviews, to always be sitting on the end of the couch up straight and breathing, because it just brings a more animated you to the interview. And I think that that's important. And, you know, if you're finding through the interview that the grilling is making you feel like, oh my Lord, I just don't want to be here, just be as pleasant as you can till the end so you can get out and you don't go back. So, and maybe you want to change you absolutely want to change your language from grilling to inquiring, curiosity. See your interviewer as curious, and go in a different headspace, telling yourself the perfect job finds me. I'm well informed. I know how to answer questions. And if I don't, I know how to say, you know, I don't have the answer to that, but I would be more than happy to get the answer. I'd be more than happy to research that or to find out. Just as crazy as it sounds, do your best to just be yourself, and smile a lot. When you smile, you calm the body down. So if you're feeling like starting to feel anxious with the questioning, just smile. Remember, breathe and smile, and that will, and the deeper you breathe, the better the chances are that you're going to calm your body down. When we breathe way up high here in the chest, we just add to the problem. So, okay. And Lynn, I just wanted to see. Yes, okay, so you're saying, yeah, it is grilling. Boy, you know, I don't know where you're going. People shouldn't be grilling people when they're interviewing. Like, that's just stupid. And you know what, Lynn, I wonder if it happened once and it got you scared. Like if you felt trapped in an interview where you were being grilled, and now you've got that in your head that that you're going to get grilled again. And so, yes, you are positive and you can overcome barriers. Great. So I wonder if you just might have had a bad experience, but you're bigger than that bad experience, Lynn. And it's great that you're positive and you welcome people's curiosity and you show up trusting yourself. And you answer when you can, and when you can't, you just say, I'm so sorry, I don't have the answer to that, but I'll get that answer and I'll get back to you. How's that? All right. Okay. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to answer one more question and then we're going to wrap it up. And yeah, so Kathy says, as a coach, how can I help a young man I used to teach who fell off the wagon from alcohol while his family was on vacation? He had to work. Okay, so as a coach, the first thing I want to say, Kathy, is alcohol or addiction is a therapy issue, not a coaching issue, right? So you can't coach somebody through, well, let me just say, as a leader in the field, the responsible thing I want to say to you without knowing the details of your situation, as a coach, I would not be coaching someone through recovery and alcohol addiction because I'm not a therapist. Somebody who specializes in addiction ought to be doing that, but what you can do is this. I've done this a lot, both on my radio show when I used to have it, I've done it here on Facebook, and I did it when I was coaching. If I suspected or if someone talked about having a problem with addiction, I would help them to find the right kind of therapist. I would help them to do the research, and I would absolutely send them to AA. I'd send them to a 12-step meeting, and I would always say this. I would kind of invoke divine support, and I would say to the person, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a local AA meeting, and I would give them a link and help them to find the meeting. I'd probably get right online with them and identify where the meetings are, what time, do they know where it is, all that jazz, make it really easy. And I would say to them, you're going to go to that meeting, and although there may be a part of you that wants to leave, all I ask is that you make a commitment to stay at the meeting until the end, listening for a message from the divine specifically for you. And when you get it, I'd like you to email me that message. So I want you to go to the meeting. I'll help you find one. And when you get there, I want you to listen. I want you to know that the divine, God, a higher power, creator, greater intelligence, spirit, whatever you call it, because I'm respectful of everybody's spiritual path, I want you to listen for a message from that higher force that has your best interest at heart, that wants to see you heal, that wants to help you overcome your addiction. I want you to listen for the message specifically meant for you, and I want you to email it to me. And then when I would get it, I would talk about this incredible message with them, and I would send them to another meeting and ask them to do the same thing again. And I can't tell you, I've had a good amount of people wind up staying in meetings as a result of that, and getting the help that they need from a good therapist or an addictions counselor or a rehab center or something like that. So doing whatever you can to help them get the resources they need. Remember, guilt and shame never work with addiction. It's actually what keeps the cycle going. So recognizing that addiction is also part brain chemistry as well. So getting good help, professional help, is going to be a really big deal. All right? All right, everybody. Thanks once again for being here with me. Next week, I will be reading from Waking Up in Winter, In Search of What Really Matters at Midlife. It's a memoir in journal form, and it'll be out in December, and I will put it in the resource post as well, in case you're interested in pre-ordering it. But there will be an ebook special next week. So for those of you who like the ebook version, wait till next week, because you can get it for, I think it's $4.99. Yeah, I think that's it. So lots of love, people. And remember, if you're free that weekend in October and you want to join me for a life-changing retreat, because it will be life-changing, I'd love to have you there. And if not, I'll look forward to seeing you next week. All right? Thank you, everybody. Take good care. Lots of love.